Welcome on in, everybody. It's your boy Gsluke. It looks like my mic's a little bit cloudy for some reason. It looks a little bit weird. No idea what's going on there, but hopefully the mic is okay. A few technical difficulties. We had Showdown lock a solid 2 hours early, so we're only going to touch on the prop side here. Going to go through the prize picks board, bring you guys all of my plays here for the second round, and go over any of your questions. So a little bit of a different stream, unfortunately. Again, DraftKings locked the slate early for whatever reason, which leaves us with far less options when it comes to betting at this point. If you didn't get your lineups in early, all you've got left are props. But we'll make sure we got you covered here. So, of course, play is still going on. Wanted to show you guys your first tee time for the second round is going to be Scott Stallings. He's in that first group out, and he's still finishing up 18 right now. You can see he has a putt there, so he'll be finishing up shortly. I imagine they'll sign their cards. Gonna go over, probably have 15 to 30 minutes in between their two rounds, whether they want to change, get a snack, that sort of thing, and they'll get right back out there. So as of right now, it's 8:30 over their local time. I'm assuming they're probably going to be teeing off at like 9:15, something around there. So we've got about 45 minutes up until lock. So again, don't wait too long to get all of those slips in. But let's take a look at the golf course, which for round one played way harder than anyone expected. We saw some wind in the forecast. I mean, a couple of days early when I was putting in my props, it wasn't quite as big a factor. But even the night before the event, you heard a few of the interviews, like Xander Schauffele had no idea that what he was walking into that day. I mean, even on the range, he's told the reporter after the round that he had no idea it was about to get super windy. So he wasn't preparing for it. He wasn't trying to hit the golf shots that were required. And it showed, right? The course played 1.26 shots over par, which is a lot higher than we're used to. I mean, we're used to this being one of the better scoring events on the PGA Tour. And this time around, it was, nothing but the opposite. So wind can play a huge factor. I mean, especially at a course where you have such an emphasis on ball striking. It's already a particularly hard course to hit fairways and especially to hit greens when it gets so windy out there, but even more so when you get those kind of conditions. So when we take a look at the weather, actually, let me bring up the weather. I don't have it up here, guys. I was dealing with a bunch of mic issues coming in. So I'm glad we got that figured out at least. Okay, now we got the weather. And see a bunch of you down there in chat as well. What's going on, boys? So let me bring up the super forecast here for y'all. And let's see what's going down in chat. So we've got, is Flex Friday not out yet? No idea. They've been dropping it a little bit later of late. And we haven't had those boosted payouts for a while. So that's kind of unfortunate. But you said it just dropped. There you go. It's NBA only again. Maybe I'll give you guys an NBA slip at the end. It's kind of annoying that they're doing it that way. I'm probably just going to do like a 3-leg NBA power play of something that's plus EV and call it a day. But all right, it's good that they posted something. What's going on, MJ? What's going on, Mr. Space, Lee, and Eric? Hopefully you guys have having a great start to your Saturday morning here. I actually have a coffee I haven't even opened yet, so I'm going to mute my mic for 2 seconds because I got a bag that's going to ruffle like hell. I don't want to blow out your eardrums, and I'll be right back. All right, didn't want to blow out your eardrums. Maybe I did. Maybe it didn't mute. No idea how that worked out, but it would have sounded like a bomb going off if I didn't mute that. So if I didn't, my apologies already. But it's a morning. We got our coffee. What's going on, Brandon for Bama? Good morning there as well. Hopefully everyone has their coffee. I'm somebody that's a 2 or 3 coffee a day kind of person. So this is number one for me. So we've held off to this point. We're doing pretty well. In terms of the weather, there's something to really keep in mind here is that I think we have to look at Saturday too. So the weather here for Friday looks beautiful, at least for the guys that are going to be playing in round two. I was watching the ESPN Plus coverage right before we got on here, and it looked like it was ideal. I mean, you had low winds. They were saying that it was pretty much not a breath of wind out there. Now, you could see in like the background, there were a few trees that were moving. So there are still a few gusts that are going through the area. That is reflected on the report right here. But you can see for the rest of the day, they have it in that 7 to 10 mile an hour range, which is what you're used to seeing out here. It's, what we see when you get that 0.7 under par average that you're used to seeing around this golf course. So rather than 1.2 shots over par, I could see it playing, whole 2 shots easier, right? Closer to your average score. So that's what I'm expecting, particularly because the temperatures are going to be higher by the time they're teeing off. So like I said, they're going to be teeing off around like 11 a.m. now, which means like 9 a.m. local time. And that's when it's starting to heat up into that 50-degree range. By the time that most are teeing off in the AM wave, it's going to be 55 to 60 degrees. So that's fine. They're going to be perfectly comfortable out there. The ball is going to be traveling its full distance. And then with those low winds that drop off right around 11 a.m. So I would say an AM wave should be done teeing off by like 12 to 1. The fact that they're finishing up, it kind of changes that, right? It kind of complicates things. That's why I'm not super confident, but they're going to be teeing off when it's absolutely perfect conditions the later you are into that wave. So that's definitely something that I'm considering there. But mostly here it's Saturday for the PM guys. So the guys that aren't teeing off in the first half of tee times are really going to be screwed here. You can see there's 12 to 40 miles an hour of wind gusts, 20 to 30 miles an hour all the way until 11 to 1 p.m. So depending on how many holes they get in today, I mean, guys like Rory McIlroy, Sun JM, Jordan Spieth. I mean, a lot of your headliner players that were playing yesterday in the first half of tee times, I mean, that's absolute carnage. I wouldn't want to be one of those players. I'd be pretty ticked off if I had to go out there and play in 40-mile-an-hour winds and nobody the entire week was even remotely susceptible to those, especially when they actually get around to round 3, right? When they make the cut, which will probably be around like noon that day, the winds drop off. They go back to being what they were for pretty much most years at the Waste Management Phoenix Open. So it's strange here. What I've done, and when we get to the prop board, I'm just going to avoid that situation, right? I'm not going to take the guys that might have 3 or 4 holes in those conditions. And while it's not a certainty that play does bleed into tomorrow, you got to think about it this way, right? They're not going to be teeing off until like, 9, probably 9:30 local time there. They teed off at 9 local time yesterday and still had an hour and a half, 2 hours of play to complete today, right? If they're in an even worse situation, why would we think that they would actually finish up both the waves, right? I mean, if anything, it's going to get even worse. They might even have 3 or 4 hours to play tomorrow. And that's not even considering the possibility that there could be a delay at any point. You can see that towards the end of today, there are some winds that are kicking through that might even have them stop play. Tomorrow morning on Saturday, they might not even play through these 40-mile-an-hour wind gusts. Maybe they delay play until like 10, 11 a.m. to try and give these guys a little bit of sheltering from that. Who knows, right? So I think the prudent thing to do here is, at least as of right now, to avoid those PM guys. Just take it out of play, right? Don't worry about all this crazy weather shit that's happening. If you're going to bet anything this morning, bet on the guys that are in the first half of tee times where you don't have to worry about that entire mess. And then throughout the day, what I'm doing over there on the Discord and for my people on my Patreon is I'm going to update you guys on the weather, right? I'm going to keep an eye on it. We'll have a much better idea of how many holes are going to be played today, closer to the afternoon, right? Closer to when we're getting closer to sunset. And we'll be able to make those decisions a little bit better. So I'm just going to take a wait and see approach. I'm going to make sure that I'm not getting screwed by that. And I think that's the prudent thing to do. In terms of props, go over to PGA here. Underdog actually has a slightly better board than what you have here for Prize Picks. So there are a few props I'm going to point out over here, but a majority of my analysis is going to be an underdog. So stay tuned to that. We'll be there shortly. So John Rahm, I'm taking his under on strokes, and I also I'll just put them all up here. So it's Justin Thomas under, and then a couple guys for birdies are better as well. So at the bottom of the board, you have Ricky Fowler, Billy Horschel down here. You could even take a Keegan Bradley if you wanted to as well. All of these guys are teeing off towards the first half of today, which is extremely important when it comes to conditions, right? Making sure they can finish before that hellhole on Saturday. And if the average score here is like 0.7 under par, right? So when I'm doing my stroke projections, a John Rahm on a normal, typical day around Scottsdale is projecting for like 67 and a half strokes. In fact, an underdog, they actually have his line at 67 and a half strokes. So I would consider his under there, but why would I take it on underdog when they have them at 68 strokes over here? So just better value, better spot to take John Rahm. And considering that he's going to have ideal conditions, I think he at the very worst pushes there at 68. So I like that we have that in our back pocket. let alone the chances that he, gets to the projection that I'm calling for of something like 4 or 5 under par. So I like that quite a bit. Justin Thomas at 68.5. Somebody who's, again, going off in the ideal conditions today. At 68, he would hit, right? Wouldn't end up pushing, which is an extra added bonus there. I wished he was at 69. I mean, that would be perfect, right? To get that push in our back pocket. But JT loves the golf course, has multiple top 5 finishes, is finished in the top 17 at this event the last 5 seasons. Right now, I have a pretty big bet on him, so I'm actually going to double check on that. Sorry, guys. So John Rahm parred that par 5, ended up parring 16. Okay. And you'll appreciate this if you're in the Patreon, of course. Where's good old Scotty boy? So he's on the par 5 right now. Okay. All right. Hopefully Tom Kim and what is it? Justin Thomas can pull through. Where's good old Tom Kim? I have a feeling he bogeyed, didn't he? Yeah. Tom Kim and JT are selling the bag right now. Let's see. Is JT at least on the green? No, he's not. Okay. Figures. So he's got to bounce back, right? So he's go out there and make the cut. I mean, he's on the cut line right now. These sort of players, we know they're going to have to go out there and be semi-aggressive, right? So he's eight shots off the cut line at this point. So I like him for birdies over there in underdog. We're going to get to that here in a second. What is he? He's at 5 here, right? Yeah. So actually, no, he's down at 4.5 now too. So that's the thing. If you don't like this 68.5 strokes, you could take the 4.5 birdies. And I kind of like it a little bit more now that he's like on the cut line, because we know he's going to have to go out there and throw darts. Like, he's not satisfied with going out there and hardly making the cut. I can tell you that for a fact. You heard guys like a Rory McIlroy even kind of allude to it this week, where they would rather go out there and miss the cut by 5 strokes than hardly get by and squeak by the cut line. He's like, there are things to do in Scottsdale. And obviously he's alluding to going to the Super Bowl there on Sunday. So yeah, expect a Rory McIlroy, by the way, who's in that PM wave, unfortunately. So that's why I'm avoiding a lot of his props, to play like an absolute madman today. And Justin Thomas, now that he's on that cut line, is a prime candidate to go out there and be hyper aggressive. So you could maybe want to take that one instead. Actually, I probably slightly prefer that one now. They still have Rahm at 5 birdies, so that's why I prefer him over here on the stroke side. I'm really seeing a huge day from Jon Rahm. This guy's at the bottom of the birdie better board. It's worth noting. I like Ricky Fowler and Billy Horschel. Both of them great track records around here. 4 birdies is right around where I expect the average to be, especially with these ideal conditions. And with somebody like the track record, like Ricky Fowler, he's won here before. Billy Horschel has a bunch of top 25 finishes, very consistent track record here around the Waste Management. I love their push potential. Then, of course, their equity to go over as well. So let me check on chat, see if there's any questions down there. Again, this is going to be a much shorter stream than usual. With the lock there early, it's pretty annoying. Do you like any of the birdie better matchups? Good question. So there's none that I've bet at this point. So to answer your question in short, no. I don't love them, but let's see. I can take a look and see if there's any leans I have. So maybe the Xander over Montgomery. Montgomery is just not the best course fit here, in my opinion. And Xander Schauffele, of course, I mean, he's tied for like 3rd, tied for 4th right now. So obviously playing some solid golf. This Tompkin versus Molnax, I think there's a pretty large talent gap there. That's one that immediately sticks out to me. This Fowler versus Putnam, I know they did it for round 1. I'd probably take it as well. Fowler, again, just a much better course fit, has a much better track record around this golf course. Let's see. Shane Lowry versus Nick Taylor. I know Nick Taylor played the lights out there in round 1, but Shane Lowry just a much better player. I'd probably take that over. Let's see. I don't love these, right? These props here for birdie or better matchups, just to be transparent, right? Nothing I'd personally go out there and bet. But just trying to give you a few leans because I know some of you guys really like the matchups. Yeah, that's probably about it. Towards the end, these lower end matchups are complete coin flips. What I try to do with these, I try to take elite tier players, right, against guys that are maybe just like average players. And I know Trey Mullinax, right, an elite level birdie maker, but he's so much more inconsistent than a Tom Kim that when you're looking at a 50-50 prop, I mean, you would be beside yourself to take Trey Mullinax, right? Like Tom Kim's going to win this like 55-60% of the time. Personally, a 55 to 60% hit rate, not really what I'm looking for when I'm trying to take props on prize picks. Not a lot. It's also facts too. The stuff I go after is closer to like 70, 67% hit rates at the very worst, particularly like when it's for strokes, for birdies are better, greens regulation, that sort of thing, actually even higher hit rates on a lot of those categories. So that's why I stay away from this birdie or better matchup board, because it's very rare for you to get anything that eclipses 60%. And that's kind of like the benchmark I go for. I try to get at least like 58 to 60% hit rates before I'm really firing in any sort of bet. And on these other categories, because they're not head-to-heads, because it's, 4.5, 5, or you're not talking about like a 75 stroke projection like you have over here for strokes, you can get some relatively large edges, especially when the projections aren't on. So that's it for birdie or better matchups. Let's see what's going on. Giorgio says, hi, Luke. Let's win some parlays. I'm about it. Yeah, so let me put those plays back on the board. They just dropped off there for a second. So let me add JT. Let me add these two down here. The way that I'm playing this, I had Justin Thomas strokes, but again, I kind of like the birdie or betters more now that he's now at 4.5 birdies, also because he didn't birdie that par 5. But I would play this as a flex play. I have a $100 flex play with, again, Justin Thomas strokes rather than birdie or better on there. But love this kind of card. The payout boost can kind of screw you if you went for the flex play. Sorry, I should say a power play there. So that's why I am going with the flex, because they do give you a 5.5x payout, which really isn't all that bad, especially because you can get 1x with getting 3 out of 4 correct back. And I believe if you end up pushing one of the two, like Ricky, Horschel, or even the John Rahm strokes prop up there, you'll end up getting a higher payout for getting 2 out of 3. I think 2 out of 3 pays like 1.25x, or maybe it's 1x. Maybe it's the same thing. But either way, it doesn't really hurt you if you end up getting a push on this card either. So that's why I like that. The Justin Thomas one, again, interchangeable with strokes. Jake says, Connors BOBM. Connors matchup. Let's see. Yeah. I need to get some coffee in me, boys. The sip I took of this coffee before, too, when I first opened it, was just straight mocha syrup, too. Like, I didn't stir it around. It was a massive L. But, yeah, let's take a look at that matchup for you. All right, so he's against Harry English. Ooh, see, that's tough. And that's closer to, like, a coin flip for me. I like this skill set. Corey Connors hits the ball straight, ball striker. Gotta love it at, waste management, TPC Scottsdale. I worry about Harris English's putter. That guy is a madman with the flat stick. Now, he's not particularly good on the surface. So, yeah, I would definitely lean towards Connors for sure. I agree with you there. But I don't know if it'd be smashing that in. Just maybe a little bit too much of a coin flip for me. Matt says you were looking at the Xander one. Okay, let's take a look at it. All right, so, and yeah, I think that's the one I pointed out before, is it not? Where's good old Xander Schauffele? Now I'm blind. Yeah, that's the one I pointed out before against Montgomery. Yeah, I mean, the guy, top of the leaderboard, right, against somebody who's not a good course fit, of course. Strokes under, yeah, so it's strokes under for John Rahm or strokes under for Justin Thomas out there. But if you're going to take props, now I want to go over underdog guys. Like I mentioned, that's where I think most of the value is for today. There's a lot better props over there. So let me go ahead and bring it up. I got to see if there's been any sort of bumps that have happened at this point, which I'm assuming there have been because it's been quite some time, but let's take a look. All right, we got the pick 'em up. Go over here to PGA. So the props that I took, I'll just tell you them. It was Aaron Wise under 70, Tom Kim under 69, Ricky Fowler under 70.5, Sahith under 69.5, and then JT over 4.5. So I took the JT one because on Prize Picks, they had him at 5. So I was trying to take advantage of the line shopping there. But of course, then they ended up bumping down JT to 4.5. So now you can get it on either site. But yeah, I liked the Sahith, Fowler, Tom Kim, and Aaron Wise under on strokes. I mean, they were solid like half stroke or sometimes even a stroke higher than some of their counterparts over there in Prize Picks. Like Ricky Fowler, right? He's at 69.5 strokes. Tom Kim, I believe he was like, 68.5 if I scroll down here. Let me see. Yeah, 68.5. So you're getting a half stroke discount right there. Let's see. With Aaron Wise, you'd have to figure that he would be projected right around some of these lower tier guys. You see Fowler actually got bumped up. So I guess a few people were taking his overs there. Must not have seen the wind forecast. Looks beautiful out there. So that's okay. They can take the overs all they want. That's fine. But still getting 70.5 over there in underdog, you got to like that. So a lot of my slips today were trying to take advantage of some of those value differences between the two sites. And then obviously not just taking the value, but making sure that it's good value, right? That the props that you're taking are still solid hit rates towards that direction. And then over there in underdog, what I like is you can take props of all the same direction and you're not getting penalized for it. So the 5 picks that I put in, I put them in an insured play for that 5-man. So it'll pay 10x there if you get all 5 correct. And I believe 2.5x if you end up getting 4 out of 5. So pretty solid payout structure. Again, just try and line shop. That's the biggest piece of advice I could give you, especially given that the underdog board and the prize picks board are priced so differently at this point. And it's a real big reason why I'm getting to these props. And just to get an idea, I'm going to see where they have Ricky Fowler's birdie or better prop now, because I know they had a 4.5 before. They may have bumped it down. They may have seen some of the action this morning from myself, some of the other bettors that I'm sure have seen some of the differences between the boards. And I think they're just starting to account for it. So it's taken them long enough at this point. I honestly thought they might have done it overnight when I was sleeping, right? I can't stay up all night doing these. But let's see. So they took Fowler off the board completely over there at underdog. That's interesting. I guess they don't want any action on him. I think they took Aaron Wise off. They did that earlier, though. They did. They took Aaron Wise off. Did they take Sahith off too? They really took off all those props. That's actually nuts. Justin Thomas and Tom Kim are the other two. Let's see. Are you kidding me? They took off all of those props. That's actually nuts. Maybe it's tee time related. I have to say, I don't know if it's bump related. It might just be tee time related because they want to make sure they have them up for the right tee times because they're starting so soon. So, yeah, just keep an eye on it. They might be updating their tee times and then re-uploading them. I'd recommend if you guys are on Discord, if you're on the Underdog Fantasy Discord, just ask the lines makers. They're pretty responsive there, which is a pretty good thing. It's nice to have some responsive lines makers. And see what they say. They'll probably post them back up. I'm assuming it's tee time related. But yeah, it's Fowler, Sahith, Aaron Wise, and then the other, I can't think of it off the top of my head. Who was the other one? And Tom Kim under strokes. Those would be my top props. Now that, JT is at 4.5 on both sites, I mean, I still like the over, right? You can take them on either site, but it's I wouldn't call it a core pick anymore, right? I would stick to the ones where you're getting that huge value difference, especially because you can use them all in the same direction. But that's all I've got, boys. Let's see what's going on in chat. Brett says, what about Fowler under? I like it over there on underdog because it was at 70.5. It's at, I believe, taken off the board. So try and see if they go ahead and post it back up. But I liked it. Yeah, Justin. Yeah, all of them are off. I think it's just tee time related. So keep an eye on that, boys. Hopefully we'll be able to go live for round 3 at a reasonable time. I mean, Draftkings, just please push back the lock, right? You had plenty of notice. Do it next time. The interns, it was a Friday morning, right? What are we going to do on Saturday morning, right? And the interns are going out on the town drinking heavy there on Friday night. I don't know if we're going to get it lock pushed back. So, but I have hope. Hopefully the interns have a good rebound ability and can wake up and do the DFS community a service. So if they do so, we'll be able to go over DraftKings tomorrow. I'm likely going to go live at 10 rather than 10:30, just in case the slapdick lines makers don't do their job properly. And then, of course, going to go over the prop side just like we did today, whether they end up pushing that back or not. So I appreciate you guys. Thank you. Go ahead, hit that like button before you hop on out of here. And I'll see you guys tomorrow for the round 3 stream.